Welcome back to Food for Thought, everyone. As you all know, the calling point of this show is to just bring you sports in a different kind of light. And so, bringing this show to you with me is my co-host, Dylan Hartley.
Hello.
So be sure to tune into the Mothership Show on Monday, Knuckle Sandwich every Thursday, Ducks in the Pond every Sunday. You can find all these shows on iTunes and Spotify. We are transitioning from SoundCloud to Spotify, so just go ahead and make that switch now. And today's show is going to be a good one. Last week we talked about, the greatest basketball player of all time, the greatest quarterback of all time. So this week we thought we'd bring in baseball. So we'll talk the greatest pitcher, greatest hitter, and then we'll talk about Luke Walton with LeBron James and that dynamic, and then also how the Lakers are going to do this year briefly. And so just to start on that topic, we're going to begin with the greatest pitcher. And Dylan, I'll go ahead and start off with this one. For me, my greatest pitcher of all time is Greg Maddux. I could run through the numbers on Greg Maddux, and they're really impressive. He's got 355 wins. He's got a 3.1 career ERA. He's got over 3,300 strikeouts. He has less than 1,000 walks, which I think might be his most impressive stat. But then on top of that, he did it for 23 years. So, having the longevity on the career like that's something I really value. But as we all know with Greg Maddux, he was never this overpowering kind of pitcher. He was never going to just gas you away with stuff. And a nice analogy I like to use for that is, I'm sure everybody has taken Lyft or Uber at some point in their life, and we've all had that Lyft or Uber that is, slow. He has the GPS ready to go, takes a nice, calm, easy route, gets you there right on time as you're supposed to, on time with that estimated time of arrival. But then we've also had that Uber driver that's a bit erratic, shifts lanes, goes over the speed limit, tries to run red lights, cuts it close. There are different things that Uber driver will do, and you might get there maybe a minute or two faster. And so I would compare Greg Maddux to kind of that calm, easygoing Uber driver that gets you right as you should, on time, where you're going. And as a starting pitcher in the major leagues, you can't undervalue that. You can't overvalue that. Having that consistent starter out there who's going to do everything you need once every 5 days. And on top of that, he's not supplying power on his pitches. So you look at guys like Roger Clemens, Randy Johnson, Pedro Martinez, these great guys, and even Aroldis Chapman today, they're going to naturally give up home runs just because they supply so much power with their pitches, where Greg Maddux never did that. So for all those kind of reasons I've accumulated there, that's why I would want Greg Maddux as my starting pitcher, and that's why I think he's the greatest starting pitcher ever too.
Yeah, man. I have a list of starting pitchers that I was gonna looking at and trying to choose between ones and saying I had Greg Maddux, Roger Clemens, Randy Johnson, Cy Young, Bob Gibson, Christy Mathewson, Walter Johnson. But I got to give it to the man. I think I got to give it to Cy Young. Dude pitched in 906 games with 511 wins, which is most all time. Mm-hmm. All doing so with a 2.63 ERA. Striking out about 2,803 hitters. They named the award, the Cy Young Award for a reason. Mm-hmm. But you can't look past a lot of these pitchers. And I think this was almost harder than picking the best hitter of all time. But I got to go Cy Young with my best pitcher. So
the whole generation thing, being not in the live ball era, not being in the modern era of sports, that doesn't impact your decision making at all in this?
And I'm usually the more of the I think there's more dominant athletes today mm-hmm. than there are than there ever has been, and I'm right. Kind of I think even Kershaw, by the time his career is over, Kershaw, Scherzer, some of these guys are going to be in this mix. And that's even why I kind of put Bob Gibson in the mix. His career stats weren't as outstanding as some of these people, but the dude threw 27 complete games in a single season, and 22 of those were wins. So even mm-hmm. on losing, they kept him out here. He was so reliable, and he could hit the ball. He hit I think it was 250, and that's what a lot of people are hitting now. A majority of the league's hitting now. So, that's like I said, it was so hard to choose between. And Greg Maddux was a close second for me, and Roger Clemens was even in that mix right there with me. But the Cy Young, I think what got me was played in he did play in about 200 more games than 200 more than Roger Clemens, 150 more than Greg Maddux. So you know how long of careers those guys had.
Right.
Again, you know, but in all doing so, he had a 2.63 ERA and 511 wins, and you know, there's pretty good hitters in his time too. So
it's just hard for me to say that somebody from back in that day could pitch or play better than now, and I hate comparing generations, you know, because you do the same thing with Bill Russell. Like, Bill Russell obviously wouldn't have been the champion and all-around dominant figure he was in today's game that he was, you know, back in the 60s. But yeah, you got to respect greatness to some extent.
Yeah.
It's just
well,
go ahead.
Well, that's kind of what I'm getting at too. Is like, you know, we're gonna say Michael's better than LeBron, and Michael play, or you know, your argument is Michael's better than LeBron, but Michael played with not as good athletes as LeBron. I mean, wouldn't you say?
Mm-hmm.
And that's kind of what I'm saying. Like Cy Young, the way he dominated the game during his time, he has with all of his stats and wins and ERA while doing so. That's why I see him as the greatest pitcher of all time, the most dominant pitcher of all time. I mean, a lot of these stats aren't even. I mean, next closest wins 100 wins behind him.
Yeah, I was gonna say no one's gonna catch his win total, but that was also different era. I mean, they'll yank guys out in the 5th inning right now if they've hit 95 pitches. Where Cy Young, I mean, they'll roll you out there 2 days in a row if they have to. So, but yeah, no one's gonna come close to the wins, and even the career ERA is still pretty impressive. You said it was 2.6.
2.6, yeah, 2.6 ERA.
Yeah, that's really impressive.
Games.
Yeah, so, playing that many games, having that durability, that's all really impressive for any time era.
Yeah, and that's just kind of why I'm at with it. It's like, man, I'm all about the athletes today, and that's why I'm a big LeBron fan, and that's why I draw it back to LeBron, because LeBron dominates his sport now, and he stands out more. But it's just like I just can't look past Cy Young here. To me, man, that's impressive.
So we've kind of talked about our greatest pitchers. I'm going to go with Greg Maddux just for the reliability, the consistency. He's calm, he's collected, and I like my Uber drivers that way. I like my Lyft drivers that way. I like my MLB starting pitchers that way. I see where you're coming from with the Cy Young thing. Why don't you go ahead and tell us who your greatest hitter of all time is then?
And I'm kind of in the same mix. I got Babe Ruth in there. I got Ty Cobb, Willie Mays, Ted Williams, all impressive. And I think I'm gonna. It's hard to choose this, and I think a lifetime career batting average of 344 with 521 home runs tallied onto that. I think it's Ted Williams has got to be my favorite, my best hitter.
Yeah.
And you got Cobb. He bat 367. I had him in there, but Ted Williams, man, you're hitting 344 and hitting 521 home runs in your career. That's.
Oh yeah, that's impressive.
Yeah. So that's kind of where I'm at. It's just Ted Williams, and like I said, man, I got players in today's era. I had Ken Griffey on my list. I got Barry Bonds up there, even though with the whole steroid thing, and there's more hitters, but again, I don't think we'll ever see a 344 hitter hitting 500 plus home runs.
I hear you. I've had the privilege of watching some pretty good baseball players in person. I got to watch A-Rod, Jeter. I got to watch Randy Johnson pitch. I watched Albert Pujols play a lot too, going and watching a lot of Cardinal games when I was younger. But for me, like guys that I have seen, the best hitters that I have seen, for me, I'm going to have to go with Ken Griffey Jr. Never watched the guy play live, but, you think about all the time he was hurt in his career, and he still had 630 home runs. He had over 27 career hits. He still managed to pull off a 20-year career, even though he wasn't healthy for all those 20 years, and he's a career 284 hitter. I just think even what he did dealing with those injuries, man, like that's really impressive. And not to mention, he's a 5-tool player. He has no holes in his game. He's a great athlete when healthy. A guy like him, man, you just don't see athletes like that very often, And so that for me, I guess I went outside the spectrum of just hitting, but he can do it all. And so for reasons like that, I just got to have Griffey as my best hitter, even though, you can make the case that Albert Pujols is better. Maybe Miguel Cabrera is on his heels, but for me, it's Ken Griffey Jr.
Yeah, I've seen him play live a couple times whenever he played for the Reds, kind of towards the back end of his career. And man, then two things I remember is two robbed home runs that he did on the Cardinals in St. Louis. So,
Yeah.
you know, and Griffey is my favorite player ever to play baseball, favorite player to ever watch. And it hurts me not to put Griffey as my best hitter.
Yeah.
But yeah, the Griffey's great, and that's a great choice, and I respect that 100%.
I feel kind of bad. You know, you gave a list, and I just kind of gave my one guy here. I talked about some of the players I've seen in person, but Pete Rose, man, like Pete Rose has more hits than anybody, and I felt like it was such a cop-out pick Pete Rose for like the greatest hitter ever, but he deserves to be mentioned, honorable mention, obviously Pete Rose for this list. But for me, it's Ken Griffey Jr. Man, if he was healthy, I always remember, like you said, I always remember him as a Cincinnati Red, just because where I was as a kid, that's kind of where he was finishing up his career at. I wish I could have watched him back, you know, during the 90s when he played for the Mariners. I think that would have been a lot of fun. So
yeah, I got a Seattle Griffey Jr. jersey that we went to a Mariners game. I live out in Oregon now. For all you that don't know, I'm not part of the Southern Illinois crew, but we went to a Seattle Mariners game, and I rocked that Griffey Jr. jersey, man, and it was just fun being there, fun wearing it. Everyone's complimenting on it. Griffey is one hell of a player.
So let me ask you this. If you were going to start a team, would you start it with your greatest pitcher you had or your greatest hitter you had?
That's so tough.
That is a tough one.
I'm going greatest hitter because that greatest hitter is going to be out there nearly every game, and the pitcher is going to be out there 1 out of 5 times, unless you got some of those hard asses in the back in the day, like, you know, like a Cy Young or Bob Gibson.
Right.
He played
I think we're going to assume that we're kind of in the rules and the regulations of today's game. You know, once every 5 days.
Then I'm taking my I'm taking my Griffey, my Ted Williams, my Ty Cobb. The guy is going to go out there and get me hits and put runs on the board so my pitcher can shut him down.
You know, I'm gonna go the exact opposite, and not just to be contrarian, but I'm gonna go with Greg Maddux just because that's almost a lock every 5 days. You know, he's gonna give you a quality start. He's gonna get you, 3 runs or less every game. And on top of that, once every 5 days, he's going to completely save your bullpen where you might only need to use 1 or 2 guys. I've seen it being a Cardinal fan. I've seen guys come up like David Freese and different players throughout the past that get called up and have timely hits and stuff. So for that reason, I'm just going to go with Greg Maddux over Ken Griffey Jr., but I would gladly take either, obviously.
And I mean, these guys do get losses and do get no decisions, but you take Greg Maddux and, you're almost, securing 3 less. I mean, obviously 3 less runs a game. So all you got to do is score 4 runs. They'll beat them. All these great pitchers are under a 3 ERA or a 4 ERA. So I don't think you can lose either way. But I mean, if you got a bat like Ken Griffey Jr. in your lineup and that sweet of a swing and that kind of atmosphere that he brings it's hard to beat too. So either way, man, it's tough to go. So
yeah, I hear you. And the thing is, even with Ken Griffey Jr., he's such a 5-tool player. I mean, he does it out in the field. He can do it on the base pass, all this kind of stuff. He can stretch a double into a triple with his speed. He can extend bases. So there's more to just hitting with Ken Griffey Jr. But I'm still going to go with Greg Maddux.
Yeah.
And so just to recap, you had Cy Young and Ted Williams as your greatest pitcher and hitter, and I went with Greg Maddux and Ken Griffey Jr. I like to note the generational gap between the 2 picks. Your guys were kind of farther back in the day, where mine were more recent. But I'd like to go ahead and just make a seamless transition here to talking about LeBron, Luke Walton, and the Lakers. And there have been some talks about way this team's going to be constructed and how LeBron's been with head coaches in the past, how Luke Walton and LeBron will mesh. And I just want to go ahead and start on that one. If I were Luke Walton, I would definitely reach out to Eric Spoelstra and Ty Lue, kind of get a feel for how they dealt with LeBron, what they thought worked, what they thought was helpful, and then also what maybe wasn't the most successful approaches in dealing with LeBron. I think that would be a wise move. But, Luke Walton, if anybody listens to the Hump Day Hoops Hysteria, I talked about Luke Walton basically, being one of the better basketball minds in this day and age. I feel like he has a PhD in basketball, if that's possible. He grew up with a dad, Bill Walton, who was coached by John Wooden, and Bill Walton would write things on his lunch bag like "Be quick, don't hurry," don't mistake activity for achievement. And he was just preaching basketball all down his son's life through the pyramid of success and John Wooden. But even then, as you go into college for Luke Walton, he was coached by Lute Olson at Arizona, Hall of Fame coach. Then he was coached by Phil Jackson, who I think is the greatest coach or greatest basketball coach of all time, and then he served as an assistant next to Steve Kerr. I mean, you've got all these different areas of basketball success and knowledge and depth and everything just around Luke Walton, and for that reason, it's hard for me to think that he won't succeed. Dylan, what are your thoughts about Luke Walton, I guess, kind of working with LeBron?
Well, I'm kind of excited to see it because, Luke Walton, too, you see, first of all, you see LeBron with all these coaches, Paul Silas, Brendan Malone, Mike Brown, Eric Spoelstra, David Blatt, and Ty Lue. Those are all LeBron's past coaches. If LeBron didn't, I don't want to say LeBron was kind of I think Blatt kind of got most of the coach killing. LeBron didn't like him, Blatt, you're out. But I just feel like LeBron mainly ran those teams. If LeBron wanted something, LeBron got it. LeBron being LeBron. I'm excited to see him with Luke Walton, just to see how he reacts. Because LeBron was the first pick of that draft, and Luke Walton was the last pick, wasn't he?
Yeah, I think something like that.
They're both drafted in 2003, and
same draft class.
Yeah, and Luke Walton was the 32nd pick of the second round. So, and that's what it's just kind of like a quick search Wikipedia. But I'm excited to see how LeBron takes being coached by a guy who was drafted behind him. With his history with coaches, it's going to be an interesting clash. I think LeBron, in his point of life, though, is mature, more mature than he was, even with his Heat days with Spoelstra, even with Blatt, and I think he's more mature than the last couple seasons, and I think he's coming in as a mentor, but ready to win. And I think he's going to listen to the coach. I think he's going to not take a minute cut, but I think he's going to be more aware of his minutes, and I think he's going to be right where he was in that MVP race where honestly, I think he should win the MVP almost every year, how valuable he is to his team.
Right.
So I think it's going to be a good mix. I think he's going to play a more mature veteran role, but still he's going to be LeBron at the same time. He's going to go out there and he's going to lead on the court. He's going to, if something's not going right, he's going to speak up. He's going to speak his mind. And Luke Walton, to me, seems like he's not going to take any shit either. So, but I think it's all the difference is instead of Cleveland being LeBron's team, it's all under Magic's team this year, coming up. So it's what Magic ultimately is going to say. And I think they're going to I think it's going to be a good system. I think they're all going to fit. The only thing I could see clashing is LeBron. They're the same draft class, pretty much.
I hear you. And, you talk about his other coaches. David Blatt, Ty Lue, and then Eric Spoelstra, I think they were good coaches. But at the same time, people talk about LeBron and his assets and skills that he brings to the game. And people always are quick to talk about the passing, rightfully so. But then one of the things that they mention, maybe behind the physicality of LeBron's game, is his basketball IQ, his knowledge for the game. And I feel like Luke Walton might be one of the first coaches who can match that basketball IQ, given Luke Walton's past and kind of where he's been, you talk about being Magic's team, Luke Walton's had, 2 years now or coming up on 3 years now of working with Magic also. So, that's just another outlet for, knowledge for him to soak up in the game of basketball. So I think it's going to work out well just because they're both smart guys. When I go to work, I want to work around other competent people who are capable of doing their job. And I think that's kind of what LeBron's going to run into here with Luke Walton. And I don't think it's going to be bad or anything like that, even though they do have some characters on the team. Dylan, what are your thoughts about the Lakers as a team in this upcoming season?
Obviously we all know it's going to be a young team, but they filled it with some veteran spots with LeBron and Rondo and Lance Stevenson and JaVale McGee, a couple of goons. So, three for sure goons, with Lance, Rondo, and McGee. But
hell, even Michael Beasley.
Yeah, Michael Beasley, I forgot about him. I think it's going to be interesting dynamic, a big mix between, because you got the future there too with Ingram, Kuzma, Lonzo. Even though I'm not too high on Lonzo, all the way around, but they're built for the future, and they're also got pieces there to win now.
Yeah.
So I don't expect them to be a rebuilding team this year. I expect them to be in a 2-3 seed hunt with LeBron leading the charge. Lance being Lance to other people now. Rondo being stingy in there. I think they got a nice hard-nosed team, and they also have young developing players that are ready to win. And I think I think it's going to be a lot better than what a lot of people think. Well, hell, ESPN doesn't even have them in their in the playoffs for their beginning of the season prediction. From what
whoever did that list ought to be fired. That's pitiful.
Yeah, I mean, LeBron is not going to not make the playoffs. I don't care how hard the West
right.
is and how easy of a cakewalk the East has been for him. It's not. I mean, the East has obviously been the worst conference of the two throughout LeBron's career. But LeBron's also, like I said last week, giving you the stats, LeBron's taken piss poor teams to the championship.
Right.
And that in the professional basketball, that's still hard to do. I mean, it's but this Lakers team, I think it's ready to win now, and I think Ball's going to produce better with LeBron on the court. I think Ingram's going to play well. I think Kuzma's going to play well, and I think these vets are going to play well. So. There's probably, with a new team like this, there's going to be a bunch of team chemistry issues, I think, to start off with, and they're going to lose a stretch of games here and there, but I don't expect them being any worse than a 4 seed, and I don't expect them being anything worse than the Western Conference Final team, playing in the Western Conference Finals. I mean, the Warriors are going to be harder than beat than ever, I think.
I think with the Lakers this year, they've got really kind of 4 things that they've built on, 4 components they've built on this offseason. The first one I'll talk about is toughness. You add Rondo, you add Lance Stephenson, you even add JaVale McGee, because he does provide rim protection, rebounding. If you play him, that 30 kind of minutes per game, that starter kind of role, which he wasn't receiving with the Warriors. But you add the toughness of Rondo, Lance Stephenson, and JaVale McGee. That kind of hardens your team to some extent. But then they talk about shooting. You have Brandon Ingram, Kyle Kuzma, you have Josh Hart, you have Kentavious Caldwell-Pope. Lance Stephenson's been working on his jump shot. Lonzo Ball had a terrific jump shot in high school. I think as more as he gets acclimated to the speed and pace of the game and stays healthy, I think his jump shot's going to continue to kind of progress and get back to where it was. But then on top of that, they have really, really smart players. Lonzo Ball's a smart basketball player. Rondo's a smart basketball player. LeBron, very smart basketball player. These are 3 kind of coaching the floor level guys that they have on their team. And then, they're young and they're athletic. You talked about it. They have Kuzma, Ingram, Josh Hart, Lonzo Ball. LeBron's obviously not very young at all, but man, he's still athletic, and so is JaVale McGee for that matter. I really like the core of this team. I really like the direction they're moving forward. I'm really excited to watch this team this year. People are kind of sleeping on them, and I'm excited to see what's going to pan out. I'm not going to give away the seed that I think they'll be yet. I'll give that away, when we start doing Hump Day Hoops Hysteria, or whenever I'm on the Mothership show on on Monday. But I really like the aspect or the dynamics of this team and the prospect that they have this year of being a top 4 seed.
Oh yeah, and it's going to be really fun to watch. You kind of hit the nail on the head, and we're pretty similar in our thoughts right now. But this tough team to beat this year, and I think even other people are looking past them. But again, it's just we just got to wait and see, and it's going to be fun to watch.
Yeah, I'm super excited to see Lance Stephenson taking turns guarding Steph Curry, Durant, guys like that. I really think it's going to be funny to watch. I'm really excited to watch it too, just to kind of see how those guys react to that kind of physicality nature of Lance Stephenson. Dylan, do you have anything to add to the end of the show here before we kind of wrap it up?
I kind of forgot to put this in my last statement. There's not going to be a time for this Lakers team that there's, like you said, a coach on the floor. You got those 3 IQs of Rondo, Ball, and LeBron.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know. It'd be interesting to kind of look up. It's going to be, not going to do it right now, but look up their plus minuses of them on the court and
Yeah.
all this stuff. But one of those, there's going to be a time where there's 3 of them, maybe 2 of them on the court, and there's never going to be not one of them on the court. I don't see. So there's always going to. I think the court's, just opens up for everybody with these 3 players. So
I agree.
So it's going to be fun. But that's pretty much all I have on that topic.
I hear you, and I definitely agree. I want to go ahead and say, thank you to everybody for listening to us again. Tune into the Mothership Show on Monday, Knuckle Sandwich every Thursday, Ducks on the Pond every Sunday. You can find all of the shows on iTunes and Spotify. I already said this, but we're transitioning off, SoundCloud to Spotify, so go ahead and make that switch now. Definitely be sure to tune in next week. We have a show that I'm really excited to talk about, and it's about player mobility and player branding in the NFL, in the NBA. We're going to kind of compare and contrast those two. You look at the size of the contracts, the marketing, where the NFL values certain aspects of their brand, and the similar aspects of that in the NBA. So that's a show I'm really looking forward to. Thanks for listening. Dylan, do you have anything you want to add before we sign off then, or are you good?
Just thanks for listening, everybody. If you ever want a topic discussed, we're always open to listen, and we kind of have a list of stuff right now, but just send us ideas. We'd like to hear from you guys. So
yeah, tweet it in. We'd love to hear it. Well, as always, everybody, go ahead and stay saucy.